this is Jesse Rogers, and this is the first factoring video in my series. So I am going to go over just the very basics. You're not going to know what some of these terms mean yet because we haven't gotten to the scenarios where they will apply. But if you stick through the whole thing, I'll leave those rules up and we'll cover each of those. But first I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the very basics of what factoring means. So you may remember the distribution property, and we're going to come back to that. So just have that in mind. But what I want you to notice is that 7a plus 14 have a common factor. So 7 is a factor of each of those. 7a is 7 times a, and 14 is 7 times 2. So what you can do is you can factor out, which means that you're going to divide each of these by what they have in common. You can factor out a common term or a common factor from each term, and what that's going to leave you with is a 7 on the outside, and then we have parentheses, and then a plus 2 is what would be left because the 7s would cancel out there. And so that's going to leave us with a plus 2 on the inside. Now I know this is right because by using the distribution property, if we distributed 7 times each of these terms, that's going to give us 7a. And then if we distributed 7 to the 2, that's going to give us plus 14, which is what we started with. And so that's going to be correct. All right, so that is now factored. Does it always factor? Well, let's look at the next scenario. So we have 7a plus 15. What are the factors of 7a? We said that's going to be the factors of 7a, or 7 times a. And what are the factors of 15? Well, the factors of 15 are just 5 times 3, right? So we don't actually have a 7 in that second term. So there's no commonality between those two terms. So if that's the case, this is called a linear binomial, and so don't get intimidated there by the language. But what makes it a binomial is that there's two terms. So you've got two terms separated by a plus or a minus sign. That's what makes it a binomial. And it's linear because the degree of the variable is the first power. Okay, so if there's an understood 1 there, it's being raised to the first power, then that's what's called linear. That's the highest degree term of that expression, and so that's a linear binomial. So if that's the case for a linear binomial, there's no factors in common, then it is what we would call prime. The word for that is prime. That means that there is nothing that can be factored out. There is no way to factor that any further. That is as simple as it can be expressed. Whereas if there is something to factor out, and you're asked to factor, then this is the simplest form of how that could be factored, 7a plus 2. So not everything factors. It's very important to know that because you could end up spending forever on a problem and feeling like you're doing something wrong when there actually is no way to factor it. It is possible to have something that doesn't factor. But we do have to exhaust every possibility to try to factor before we conclude that it's prime. All right, so check out my other videos. There's going to be links to those in the description. And subscribe and like, and you'll see more of these videos as they come out. Thanks for watching.